Okay, welcome back. I want to talk about how we move forward, and as silly as it might sound, I think a huge piece of that is actually getting on the same page with ourselves. If you think about it as trying to resolve a conflict or some type of compromise, we know that that requires getting on the same page with the next person, having and demonstrating an understanding of the conflict, what it is that they want, having really optimal communication. I think we have a lot of awareness about how to resolve conflict with others. Now, resolving conflict with self works largely the same, but communicating with self and compromising with self seem like very strange things to do. So let's talk about that conceptually in a way that can work for you. I think there's three ways that we know things. I think we know things from our head, our heart, and our gut. Your head, of course, is your intellect, your problem solving, your ability to analyze all of the information you have stored. Your heart, well, that's everything that you feel, everything that you love and hate, and unfortunately, for a lot of us, our hearts tell pretty little lies. We still have this mythology in our culture that following your heart is a good idea, and nowhere is that more evident than in romantic comedies. But it tends to be less than true, less than genuine, and sometimes what we see from our hearts is not truly what is, but rather what we want it to be. Knowing things from your gut is intuition and instincts. And if you're like me and you grew up in an unhealthy family, or if you've survived trauma or addiction, then you have a really advanced set of skills. A therapist would refer to them as survivor skills, and they are products of our experience. So we have learned to observe our environment and the people in it in a way that is perhaps hypervigilant. We have learned just to have a sense of how events are likely to unfold because it was necessary that we do so. Children who grew up in unsafe situations learned how to read situations and how to read people and get a sense of what was expected of them, how to diffuse conflict or how to protect people. We learned that, many of us, from a very young age. So if these three concepts can work for you, your head, your heart, and your gut, then the opportunity is to get them on the same page. For most of us, again, this is an expression that my friends in AA use. The longest distance in the world is from here to here. What I know sometimes conflicts with what I feel. I don't want what I know to be true. And so sometimes if I allow my heart to hijack my head, my heart says, I find this truth to be unacceptable. Let's find another way of looking at it. Let's find a way to fix this. But quite often, well, I guess the way I will say it is, I've learned that the truth exists independently of how I feel about it. So sometimes we just find something too painful or too unacceptable, and if you'll excuse the term, we mindfuck ourselves into ways of seeking kinder, gentler, softer truths or ways of coping or making sense of our experience. Listening to our gut feeling is something that most of us will readily do on behalf of people we love, on behalf of people we serve. But we tend not to utilize that skill for our own interests. We will follow our hearts, or we will engage in a lot of overthinking. Many of us are very gifted in our ability to analyze, but analysis quite often, as the adage goes, leads to paralysis. Sometimes we just think in circles. We have a propensity for self-doubt, and so we don't just second-guess ourselves, we 40 second-guess ourselves, and we can do this endlessly. When we're overthinking, we're avoiding what we feel, and we're avoiding taking action. So the suggestion that I give folks is, if we practice mindfulness, you, in any given part of your life, on any given issue, you can check in, how am I thinking about this, what do I know about this, How do I feel about this? And what does my gut tell me is the right thing or the truth? What I recommend is getting your head and your gut on the same page. They're two very different ways of knowing. One is through intellect and the other is through intuition. But if I can consider any given decision or any given issue from both my intellect and what it is that my gut tells me about this, then I have those two on the same page so that I can then cope with how I feel. I can then move towards acceptance of what I believe the truth is and not let my emotions be an obstacle to that. This is not a small undertaking, but it is eminently attainable. I'm confident that if you practice this, what you'll find is inner conflict between how you feel and what you know. And I say to my clients all the time, I haven't found anything in this world worth lying to myself about. So I want to be working from the truth, I want to be making decisions based on the truth, and I want to make sure that I'm not making decisions based on emotion. Decisions based on feelings are arguably the worst possible way to make decisions. Better to make decisions based on your beliefs and values. Better to make decisions based on logic or rational thought. Better to make decisions based on what you intuitively believe. Emotions change from minute to minute, and they are not solid bases for decision making. So if we continue to practice mindfulness, if we continue to resolve internal conflicts, then we can notice maybe some fundamental flaws in terms of our outward behavior. Many of us are very quick to sacrifice our own wants, needs, and feelings. We are very prone to accommodating others or even being a doormat to others. We, because of our past experience, want very much to avoid conflict, and so particularly for those of us who live with anxiety, our heart says, whatever I have to do to make this situation go away, I will do it immediately because I am uncomfortable with how things are and I want to avoid conflict. So my experience is, as we avoid conflict with others, we create conflict with ourselves. We develop resentment. We hold on to past pain and anger because there's always some hope or some expectation about what our sacrifice was supposed to yield. What were we supposed to get in return? A lot of us are really hoping that if we treat you this way, if we give these things to you, then it should ideally inspire you that that's how we want to be treated, and we're hoping for reciprocity. But so many of us are uncomfortable speaking those needs or conveying them that we don't ask. And then eventually we get angry for what we don't receive that we haven't asked for. So I'm always preaching the keep it simple system. KISS is the acronym. If I can keep things simple, then I can check in with myself, I can be honest with myself, I can resolve internal conflicts. And being on the same page with myself is going to make it a lot easier to relate to other people in a way that's healthy. So I can bear witness or even be a part of conflict and still have a sense that I am safe, or still have a sense that this is not about me. It's very foundational, but it's very hard to achieve, and sometimes it's very subtle. We have a tendency to minimize our own importance. We have a tendency to minimize our feelings, our needs, and it's as subtle as saying, well, it's just me, or saying, well, as long as I'm the only one that gets hurt, it's okay. Those are rationalizations. Those are reasons why it's okay to fail ourselves, and it's not. It's not okay for anybody to hurt us, but it's a responsibility for us not to hurt ourselves and to do what is in our best interest. So, head, heart, and gut, practice that, and look for opportunities. If you're anything like me, you have intuition, you have survival skills, and those are things that can be honed to make your work better, to make your quality of life better, and to have a stronger sense of how events or people, places, and things are likely to unfold. All right, thank you. On to the next section.